This is Chateau 2015 Premier Grand Cru Sauternes. Quite a special wine. It's a wine that's literally in a class by itself. There is no other Premier Grand Cru in the Sauternes classification. Yquem stands alone. It's got a very, very long and colorful history, which you should probably check out sometime because it's interesting. Owned by kings, but it's been a very coveted wine for centuries. Why? Because it just has such an extraordinary quality, an intensity of flavor, and an impeccable balance of sweetness, acidity, and rich, rich bouquet. Of course, this is a late harvest wine, and the way they make these wines is they let the grapes hang on the vine late in the season. And what happens is the grapes get affected by something called Botrytis cinerea, which is a fungus. And because of where Sauternes is located, we're inland in Bordeaux, right? So you're down the river where they've split off. And so where the Medoc is warm and breezy and maybe a lot of moisture comes in there. Once you get down to Sauternes, it's a much cooler area, and it's much more affected by the continentality of the climate, and you get the fog from the river, which rolls over these vineyards and causes these fungus spores to occur on the grapes. So, a couple of things. First, you've got nice clay soil, also mixed with some gravel, so that clay retains moisture and lets those grapes hang on, lets those vines really hang on to their grapes late into the season. You got that cooling effect from being inland, also lengthens the hang time for these grapes. You've got Semillon, which is a grape that's famous for its bright, bright acidity. And they mix that with Sauvignon Blanc, which has lots of nice character and a little more fruit and richness, kind of complements that Semillon. But the Semillon is what lets those grapes keep that bright acidity and that balance. So you've got vineyards of over 250 acres, like 275 acres of vineyards. And these grapes are hanging on here late into the season, October, November, and these grapes are shriveled up, and the pickers go out and they select the grapes like one at a time, right? And so they're bringing these grapes in one at a time. And you know, you talk about yields, right? So an average yield is about 3-4 tons an acre. You know, a high yield, 5, 6, 7 tons an acre. The yield in Yquem is like half a ton an acre. So it's equivalent of like 1 glass of wine for every vine, right? So tiny amounts. That's one of the reasons that the wine is so coveted, so expensive. So they press these grapes, they ferment them, and it takes a long time for these really high sugary grapes to ferment. It just happens really slowly because the yeast have to work really hard, right? And eventually you reach a point where the balance is perfect. They interrupt that fermentation, and you have something extraordinary, because it's not just the richness from the sugar and the intensity from those the really nice flavors from the Semillon and the Sauvignon, but the botrytis itself gives the wine a very unique quality. See, sort of viscous in the glass. Oh, I'm gonna smell it now. Wow. Yeah, so pineapple, creme brulee, a little bit of ginger, some exotic mango, a little bit of a sort of vanilla cream in there, right? Wow, it smells good. I get a little banana now. Let's try it. Delicious. Beautifully succulent on the palate. It has a richness, but it's also just feels silky. The acidity keeps it kind of mouth-watering and ripe. And those flavors just keep coming on. That mango, banana, vanilla, creme brulee, ginger. Sort of really kind of mouth-watering on the finish, lingering a long time. Yeah, the acidity is one of the great things about this wine, and it's one of the reasons, the other reason that this wine is so sought after is because because of that acidity, because of the sweetness, the wine ages incredibly, like, better than most collectible red wines. Chems have been tasted for 100 years old and still showed incredibly. And obviously with age, it also takes on much more nuance, much more complexity. So it's a crazy collectible, and it's also an amazing wine to drink. So whether you're in it for the for the value, or whether you just really want to enjoy this hedonistic experience, it's something you really ought to try. Happy drinking.